Does Genesis 22 verse 1 contradict James 1 verse 13? Does God tempt people to sin? James 1 verse 13. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. Genesis 22 verses 1 to 2. And it came to pass after these things, that God did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. The Bible says that God doesn't tempt people, but earlier it states that God tempted Abraham. So how do we understand these passages? Tempted to sin. James 1 verse 13 is in regard to being tempted to break God's law, sin, which we see by including the context. James 1 verses 13 to 15. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. Verse 14. But every man is tempted, when he is drawn away of his own lust, and enticed. Verse 15. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. The passage in James states that God doesn't tempt anyone to sin, do wrong, do evil, etc. My paraphrase of the second part of verse 13 would be, just as God cannot be tempted with evil, neither does he tempt any man to commit evil. Another meaning of tempt. Tempt, like thousands of other words, has more than one meaning. Was God tempting Abraham to sin when he told him to offer Isaac his son upon the altar? Well, since sin is defined as breaking God's law, 1 John 3 verse 4, it would be impossible, by definition, to obey God's directive and sin. The word tempt in Genesis 22 verse 1 is synonymous with try, as we learn from the retelling of the event in Hebrews 11 verse 17. Hebrews 11 verse 17. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son. Furthermore, we are told that Abraham knew that even if God allowed him to offer up Isaac, that Isaac would be raised from the dead and that it would picture Jesus Christ. Hebrews 11 verse 19. Accounting that God was able to raise him up, even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. Conclusion. These passages do not contradict at all, and it would take bad reading comprehension to think that they do when read in context. Words can have more than one meaning.